Let me ask you something. At what point does love stop being love and start becoming poison? It doesn't happen with a dramatic explosion. It happens quietly, one red flag at a time, until one day you look in the mirror and realize the man staring back at you isn't you anymore. You've lost your peace. You've lost your fire. You've lost yourself. And here's the harsh truth. The longer you stay blind to those signs, the more of your dignity, your strength, and your future you hand away. So today, I'll break down the 5 deadly patterns every man needs to recognize. If your woman does these, don't justify it, don't excuse it, leave immediately. Because trust me, staying will cost you far more than walking away ever will. 1. Gaslighting, the silent war on your reality. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you come home after a long day and you bring up something that upset you. Maybe it was the way she dismissed you in front of her friends, or maybe she promised something and didn't follow through. You're not angry, just honest. But instead of listening, she looks you straight in the eye and says, "That never happened." Now, the first time, you laugh it off. You think maybe you did misremember. But the 3rd time, the 5th time, by the 10th, you're standing there questioning your own mind. That's not a mistake. That's gaslighting. Gaslighting is one of the cruelest weapons in female psychology when misused. It's not always intentional, but the damage is the same. She bends reality, makes you doubt yourself, and eventually you stop trusting your own memory. And let me tell you, once a man doubts his reality, he loses the core of who he is. Because how do you lead? How do you protect? How do you make decisions if you're not even sure your own thoughts can be trusted? I've sat across men in my sessions, strong, capable, disciplined men who were reduced to shells because they lived too long in the fog of gaslighting. They started apologizing for things they never did. They began asking permission for feelings that were completely valid. They thought they were going crazy when in truth, someone was simply twisting their reality. Here's the psychology behind it. Gaslighting works like rust. It doesn't destroy in one strike. It eats slowly, silently, until the foundation crumbles. And by the time you notice, you've already handed over your power. So what's the move? First, document reality, not like an obsessed investigator, but like a man who values his truth. Write down events, agreements, words exchanged. That way, when your sanity is questioned, you have a reference. Second, communicate clearly and calmly. Don't attack, don't explode. Say, "When I share something and you deny it, I start to doubt myself. That damages both of us." Straight, firm, no smoke to hide behind. But here's the tough pill. If she keeps doubling down, mocking you, or flipping the blame back on you, that's your answer. You're not dealing with miscommunication. You're dealing with manipulation. And manipulation isn't love. It's control. Ask yourself this. Have you been keeping quiet just to avoid another reality war? Because silence isn't peace. Silence is slow suicide. A woman who truly cares will never make you feel insane for remembering what actually happened. She won't erase your truth to save face. If you're constantly second-guessing yourself, editing your words, or doubting your sanity just to keep her, then you're not in love. You're in prison. And let me be very clear, once you give up your reality, you give up your backbone. And without that, no man can stand tall. 2, never ignore what she's really saying. Men often hear women speak, but they don't really listen. And that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Women aren't always going to spell things out directly. Sometimes they'll drop hints. Sometimes they'll test the waters before telling you how they really feel. And if you miss it, or worse, ignore it, you're sending a loud message without even realizing, "I don't care enough to pay attention." Think of it this way. Imagine you're telling a story to someone and halfway through they're already looking at their phone. That tiny act makes you feel invisible, right? That's how women feel when you only half listen. But here's the deeper truth. Most women don't just want their words heard, they want their emotions felt. Let me share a quick story. A guy once told me about a fight he had with his girlfriend. She kept saying, "You never spend time with me." His reply, "That's not true, we just went out last week." Now, technically, he wasn't wrong, but he missed the point. She wasn't talking about the event. She was talking about the feeling. She wanted him to understand that she was craving consistent closeness, not a single date thrown in here and there. Listening means catching what's behind the words. If she says, "It's fine," but her tone drops, "It probably isn't fine," If she pulls back in conversations, she's not being cold. She's telling you something's wrong without outright saying it. The mistake men make is taking everything literally and ignoring the emotional subtext. Women live in the emotional details. That's where the truth hides. And here's the irony. Most guys think listening makes them look weak. They think, if I focus too much on her feelings, I'm losing my edge as a man. Wrong. Real strength isn't being emotionally numb. Real strength is having the patience and awareness to understand her without turning defensive or brushing her off. If you're serious about a woman, don't just nod your head when she speaks. Repeat back what you understood. Ask her questions, not in a robotic therapist way, but in a way that shows you care enough to get it right. Like, so you're saying you feel left out when I'm always busy with work? That small act can completely shift the energy in a relationship. At the end of the day, women don't want perfection. They don't want a guy who never makes mistakes. What they want is a man who makes the effort to actually understand them. Ignore her words long enough and she'll start giving them to someone else who's willing to listen. 3. Never compete with her. Here's another trap men fall into, competing with their woman instead of complimenting her. And trust me, this is a silent killer of attraction. See, competition works great in business, in sports, in hustling through life. But inside a relationship, it destroys trust and intimacy. When a man tries to outshine his woman, whether it's about money, looks, career success, or even who sacrifices more, it creates an unspoken tension. She starts feeling like she's not your partner, but your opponent. Let me break it down with a real example. A woman once told me her boyfriend couldn't stand it when she got compliments at work. If she was praised, he'd downplay it or try to top it with one of his own achievements. On the surface, it looked small. But over time, she felt like he couldn't celebrate her wins without turning them into a competition. That's not love. That's insecurity wearing a mask. A high-value man doesn't need to compete with his woman. He knows his worth and he's not shaken by her shining moments. In fact, he celebrates them because her glow doesn't dim his. It adds to it. And this is where many men mess up. They think dominance means always being on top. But real masculine presence is about stability. You don't have to prove yourself constantly. Your value shows in how grounded you are, even when she's standing in the spotlight. Ask yourself this: are you secretly jealous when she does well? Do you try to one-up her in small conversations? If yes, then you're falling into the competition trap. And here's the harsh truth: women can sense this energy instantly. You may not say it out loud, but she feels it. And once she feels she can't be safe showing her full self around you, she'll start hiding parts of who she is. That's the beginning of emotional distance. Instead, the healthiest thing you can do is shift your mind. Real woman does want to see some of your vulnerabilities, but it has to be balanced. Show her you're human, but also show her you can handle life. Share struggles, but share them with solutions. Instead of saying, I'm broke and I don't know what to do, you say, money's tight right now, but I'm working on fixing it. See the difference? One builds trust, the other builds pity, and pity is poison to attraction. So here's the bottom line. Open up, yes, but don't overshare. Don't turn her into your therapist. Handle your storms like a man, and she'll respect you far more than if you fall apart in her arms every other day. 5. Never beg for love. This one should go without saying, but too many men still fall into it. Begging for love is one of the fastest ways to kill any respect or desire a woman has for you. Begging doesn't always look like falling on your knees with tears in your eyes. Sometimes it's more subtle. It's texting her constantly when she's pulling away. It's agreeing to things you hate just to keep her happy. It's chasing her approval at the cost of your self-respect. Every time you do this, you're basically telling her, I'm not enough on my own, please validate me. And women can smell this energy a mile away. It's not attractive. In fact, it flips a switch inside her. She might feel sorry for you, but she won't feel desire, because desire doesn't come from pity, it comes from respect. Think back to a time when you wanted someone who didn't want you back. You probably thought, if I just try harder, if I just give more, maybe they'll love me. But the harder you tried, the more they pulled away. That's not a coincidence. It's psychology. Humans don't value what comes too easily.